Have you ever met someone who seems to always downplay their intelligence? Yet when they finally speak up, their insights blow you away? Someone who acts like they don't know much, but then drops knowledge bombs that leave everyone speechless? Well, if you're thinking of an INFJ right now, you're not alone. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most puzzling behaviors of the rarest personality type. Why INFJs pretend to be dumb when they're actually brilliant. Stick around, because what I'm about to reveal will change how you see these mysterious individuals forever. You might even recognize yourself in this behavior, and trust me, understanding this pattern could transform your relationships and self-awareness. 1. The INFJ Paradox. Smart yet silent. Let's start with the elephant in the room. INFJs, also known as advocates or idealists, make up only 1 to 3% of the population. They're naturally gifted with incredible intuition, deep thinking abilities, and complex problem-solving skills. Yet, here's the kicker. They often act like they know nothing at all. This isn't some random quirk. It's a carefully crafted survival mechanism that's been years in the making. You see, INFJs have learned that being too smart, too insightful, or too aware can actually work against them in social situations. So they've mastered the art of intellectual camouflage. Think about it for a second. When was the last time you met someone who immediately impressed you with their intelligence? How did you react? Did you feel intimidated? Challenged? Maybe even a little threatened? Well, INFJs have picked up on these social cues their entire lives, and they've adapted accordingly. They've learned that sometimes it's better to be underestimated than to be seen as a know-it-all. It's safer to blend than to stand out. And honestly, it's often more effective to observe from the shadows than to be in the spotlight. 2. The fear of being too much. Here's something most people don't understand about INFJs. They're constantly worried about overwhelming others with their intensity. Their minds work like high-powered computers, processing information at lightning speed, making connections that others miss, and seeing patterns everywhere. But here's the thing. Not everyone appreciates this level of mental processing. In fact, many people find it exhausting or intimidating. INFJs have learned this lesson the hard way, often through childhood experiences where their insights were dismissed, their questions were too deep, or their observations made others uncomfortable. So they dial it down, way down. They pretend they don't see what they clearly see. They act confused when they're actually crystal clear. They ask questions they already know the answers to, just to avoid making others feel stupid. It's like they're constantly walking on eggshells, trying to balance their natural intelligence with social acceptance. And let me tell you, that's exhausting. Imagine having to constantly hide a fundamental part of who you are just to fit in. 3. The social survival strategy. INFJs aren't pretending to be dumb because they enjoy it. They're doing it because they've learned it's a social survival strategy. Throughout their lives, they've noticed that being too smart too fast can lead to isolation, rejection, or being labeled as arrogant. They probably experienced situations where they shared their genuine thoughts, only to be met with blank stares, dismissive comments, or worse, social exclusion. So they've developed this protective mechanism where they test the waters first, gauge people's reactions, and then slowly reveal their intelligence bit by bit. It's like they're social scientists, constantly studying human behavior and adapting their approach based on what they observe. They'll throw out a small insight to see how people react. If it's well received, they might share a little more. If not, they retreat back into their I don't know much persona. This strategy actually works quite well for them. It allows them to build trust gradually, avoid threatening others, and still contribute meaningfully to conversations, just at a pace that others can handle. 4. The power of strategic ignorance. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. INFJs have mastered what I call strategic ignorance. They know exactly when to play dumb and when to reveal their intelligence. It's not random, it's calculated. They might act confused about something they understand perfectly, but they're doing it for a reason. Maybe they want to encourage someone else to explain it, giving that person a confidence boost. Maybe they're trying to avoid taking on additional responsibilities. Or maybe they're just not ready to deal with the social consequences of being seen as the smart one in the room. This strategic approach to intelligence is actually quite brilliant. It gives them control over how others perceive them, allows them to manage social dynamics, and helps them avoid unwanted attention or pressure. Think about it. If everyone knows you're the smart one, guess who gets all the difficult questions? Guess who's expected to have all the answers? Guess who becomes responsible for solving everyone else's problems? INFJs have figured out that sometimes ignorance really is bliss. 5. The burden of seeing everything. Here's something that might surprise you. INFJs often pretend to be dumb because they see too much, not too little. Their intuitive abilities are off the charts. They pick up on subtle cues, hidden meanings, and unspoken truths that others completely miss. But here's the problem. Sharing these observations can be incredibly uncomfortable for everyone involved. When an INFJ points out something that others haven't noticed, it can feel like they're reading minds or seeing through people's facades. And let's be honest, most people don't appreciate being seen that clearly. So INFJs learn to keep their observations to themselves. They act like they don't notice the tension in the room, the lies being told, or the hidden agendas at play. They pretend they don't see what's really going on, even though their radar is picking up everything. It's like having superhuman vision, but pretending to be blind because seeing clearly makes everyone else uncomfortable. They sacrifice their natural gifts for the sake of social harmony. 6. The protection mechanism. For many INFJs, playing dumb isn't just about social acceptance. It's about protection. They've learned that intelligence can make you a target. Smart people get more criticism, higher expectations, and often become scapegoats when things go wrong. By downplaying their abilities, INFJs create a buffer between themselves and these pressures. They fly under the radar, avoid unwanted attention, and protect themselves from the stress that comes with being seen as highly capable. This protection mechanism often develops early in life. Maybe they were the kid who always had the right answers, but got teased for being a know-it-all. Maybe they were expected to be perfect because they were smart. Maybe they learned that being intelligent meant taking on adult responsibilities too early. Whatever the case, they discovered that hiding their intelligence was a form of self-preservation. And once this pattern is established, it can be incredibly difficult to break. 7. The need for authentic connection. Here's something beautiful about INFJs. When they do reveal their intelligence, it's usually because they've found someone they trust. Someone who won't judge them, intimidated by them, or try to use their abilities against them. These moments of intellectual authenticity are precious to INFJs. They're finally able to drop the act, share their real thoughts, and connect with someone on a deeper level. But these moments are rare, which is why INFJs often feel lonely despite being surrounded by people. They're constantly searching for that safe space where they can be intellectually honest without fear of rejection or judgment. They want to find their tribe, people who appreciate their insights rather than feeling threatened by them. When they do find these connections, you'll see a completely different side of the INFJ. They become animated, passionate, and incredibly articulate. It's like watching someone come alive after pretending to be asleep. 8. The cost of constant masking. Let's talk about what this constant intellectual masking costs INFJs. First, it's mentally exhausting. Imagine having to constantly monitor and modify your natural responses. It's like having to speak a foreign language all day, every day. Second, it leads to identity confusion. When you spend so much time pretending to be someone you're not, you can start to lose touch with who you really are. Many INFJs struggle with imposter syndrome because they've become so good at hiding their true capabilities. Third, it creates internal frustration. INFJs have so much to offer, so many insights to share, but they often feel silenced by social expectations. This can lead to feelings of being misunderstood, unappreciated, or invisible. Finally, it can impact their self-esteem. When you constantly downplay your abilities, you might start to believe your own act. Some INFJs actually begin to doubt their intelligence because they've hidden it so well for so long. 9. The workplace dynamics. In professional settings, this tendency to hide their intelligence can be both a blessing and a curse for INFJs. On one hand, it helps them avoid office politics, reduces workplace jealousy, and allows them to observe dynamics without becoming a target. On the other hand, it can seriously limit their career advancement. If no one knows how smart you are, you're unlikely to be considered for challenging projects, leadership roles, or promotions. INFJs often find themselves undervalued and overlooked in their careers because they've hidden their light under a bushel. They might watch less qualified colleagues get promoted while they remain stuck in positions that don't utilize their full potential. It's a frustrating cycle. They hide their abilities to avoid problems, but then create different problems by being underestimated. Many INFJs struggle with finding the right balance in professional settings. They want to be recognized for their contributions without dealing with the negative aspects of being seen as the office genius. 10. The relationship impact. This pattern of hiding intelligence significantly impacts INFJ relationships, both romantic and platonic. In romantic relationships, INFJs might worry that being too smart will intimidate potential partners or create an imbalance in the relationship. They've probably experienced situations where their intelligence became a source of conflict. Maybe a partner felt threatened by their insights, or maybe they were expected to solve all the relationship problems because they were the smart one. So they learned to tone it down, to ask for help with things they could easily figure out themselves, to pretend they need guidance when they're perfectly capable of making decisions. They do this to make their partners feel needed and valued, but it often comes at the cost of their own authenticity. In friendships, the dynamic is similar. INFJs might worry that being too insightful will make their friends uncomfortable or that sharing their true thoughts will damage the relationship. So they become the supportive friend who listens more than they speak, who asks questions instead of offering solutions. 11. The cultural and social expectations. Let's not ignore the cultural factors at play here. In many societies, there are unspoken rules about intelligence, especially for certain groups. Women, for example, might feel pressure to downplay their intelligence to avoid being seen as threatening or unfeminine. INFJs, being highly sensitive to social expectations, pick up on these cultural messages and internalize them. They learn that being too smart can be socially costly, so they adapt their behavior accordingly. Different cultures have different attitudes toward intelligence and intellectual expression. Some cultures value modesty and humility over intellectual showboating. Others expect certain people to stay in their lane and not appear too knowledgeable. INFJs navigate these cultural waters carefully, adjusting their intellectual expression based on the social context they find themselves in. It's another layer of complexity in their already complicated relationship with their own intelligence. 12. The breaking point. Eventually, many INFJs reach a breaking point with this pattern. They get tired of hiding, tired of being underestimated, tired of feeling like they're living an inauthentic life. This often happens during major life transitions, changing careers, ending relationships, or facing personal crises. When INFJs hit this breaking point, they often go through a period of reclaiming their intelligence. They start speaking up more, sharing their insights, and refusing to play dumb anymore. It can be a dramatic shift that surprises everyone around them. This transformation isn't always easy. People who are used to the harmless version of the INFJ might be shocked by their hidden capabilities. Some relationships might not survive this shift, which can be painful but necessary for the INFJ's growth. The breaking point often leads to a more authentic way of living, but requires courage and a willingness to risk social discomfort for personal integrity. Conclusion. So why do INFJs pretend to be dumb when they're actually brilliant? It's not because they enjoy deception or lack confidence in their abilities. It's because they've learned that intelligence can be a double-edged sword in a world that often feels threatened by insight, depth, and genuine understanding. They've developed sophisticated strategies to navigate social situations while protecting themselves from the potential negative consequences of being seen as too smart, too aware, or too intense. It's a survival mechanism born from years of learning that sometimes it's better to be underestimated than misunderstood. But here's the thing. The world needs INFJ intelligence. We need their insights, their ability to see patterns and connections, their deep understanding of human nature. When INFJs hide their gifts, we all lose out on their potential contributions. If you're an INFJ reading this, know that your intelligence is a gift, not a burden. Yes, it might make some people uncomfortable, but the right people will appreciate and value what you bring to the table. You don't have to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. And if you know an INFJ in your life, create safe spaces for them to be intellectually authentic. Encourage their insights, appreciate their depth, and show them that their intelligence is welcome and valued. The secret INFJs are hiding isn't that they're pretending to be dumb. It's that they're protecting something precious. Their intelligence is a treasure they've learned to guard carefully, revealing it only to those who prove themselves worthy of such trust. Understanding this pattern is the first step toward breaking it. Whether you're an INFJ learning to embrace your intelligence or someone who wants to support the INFJs in your life, remember that authenticity is always worth the risk. The world becomes a better place when brilliant minds feel safe to shine their light. So the next time you encounter someone who seems to be downplaying their intelligence, look a little deeper. You might just discover a brilliant mind that's been hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to notice and appreciate the gift they've been keeping secret all along.